everybody. This is Scott Bunce. I'm really excited to present Christian Hyatt here today. Christian was just speaking at my Vistage meeting, where I help do a peer-to-peer advisory group and coach senior executives. Christian, welcome back, and thank you again for presenting to my group.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my group had a lot of really positive things to say because all of them are touching technology and security along the way. And I think the value you added to my group was the fact that you've got your finger on the pulse and you might have dispelled some rumors of, what's urgent and important and what is, this piece of social media or this contact in technology might not be as bad as somebody thought, but yet these others you got to be very worried about. So could you give us kind of a thumbnail on what are some of the hot topics and what senior executives and CEOs and owners of small business should be worried about?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just a little bit of context. So, I love speaking to your Vistage group and the Vistage groups. And the reason I like that is because they're typically business executives, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and I am too. So I'm the CEO and co-founder of Risk 360. And the perspective I try to bring to cybersecurity, that's my business, is that CEO's perspective. So most of these CEOs and these executives, they're not thinking about cybersecurity every day. I am, but what they are thinking of are things that matter a lot to their business. And coincidentally, that's what I care about too. And a small piece of what they might care about, or maybe what they should care about, is cybersecurity. So that's where some of that myth busting comes in, because you see a lot of the headlines, you see the hype, you hear about cybersecurity, it's the boogeyman in the closet. But then I'm trying to get real in those talks with my peers that are other CEOs. I'm like, all right, guys, we're trying to build great products, trying to earn a profit, we're trying to build businesses. Where does cybersecurity fit into that? And sometimes it doesn't really fit in. Sometimes these are businesses that have very real concerns that aren't cybersecurity. They're trying to stay in business. They're trying to grow a business. They probably need IT. They don't need cybersecurity. That's good. I'm like, good. I'm not keep doing what you're doing. But then there's these other businesses that are, a lot of technology. They're building products. There's high net worth individuals, and they and their companies are targets when it comes to cybersecurity. So a little bit of hygiene goes a long way. So some of the things that we talk about is just that blocking and tackling, like what's the balance between IT and cybersecurity? How are they different? How are they the same? Talk a lot about email security, because everyone has issues there. Talk about social engineering, and then really the world that I live in is how does cybersecurity play a role in the revenue generating piece of your business? So what we see for a lot of technology businesses is that they ultimately have to get security certifications. They have to be able to articulate their cybersecurity story to their stakeholders, or else they can't do business with certain types of businesses. The common example is I'm a tech company and I want to do business with Bank of America. Well, Bank of America isn't going to do business with you unless you have a cybersecurity story to tell. And my company helps tell that story through certifications, through building companies, through practical advice. And that's kind of just the perspective I try to bring to it. Really, the CEO, the business perspective, and then where cybersecurity fits into all that.
If I'm a CEO and I worry about cybersecurity because what I'm seeing on the news, and it just feels like China gets brought up a lot and connections to China. What should I, if I have limited resources or limited time, where do I even start?
Yeah. I think you start by thinking about your business model and then trying to prioritize cybersecurity from there. So what I mean by that is if you are a business that, let's say you're a restaurant, or you have a roofing business, or you have a fairly low tech business, it might be the case that cybersecurity is pretty low on your priority list. So where I would advise that kind of business is to invest in good IT. So hire maybe an outsourced IT company or a full-time IT person, if that makes sense for you, and use best in class products. If you're using Google Suite, Microsoft, any of that kind of stuff, and just kind of build security hygiene into your day-to-day IT. And that's probably enough for that kind of business. So if sometimes they get advice about they need a risk assessment, they need a certain tool, they need this new technology. Often that's not really the case. Like spending money on cybersecurity for that kind of company probably isn't going to move the needle for them. However, if you're a business that is building a product, you have a web app, you're a SaaS company, that type of company is going to see cybersecurity become relevant from basically from day one. And they're probably going to have to build a pretty mature cybersecurity program. And that's probably because they're being held accountable contractually by their customers. The Bank of America example I just gave you. And for them, they're really going to have to invest in cybersecurity. So really, it just kind of starts and say, where does cybersecurity fit into my business model? And then for a little bit larger businesses, and this is kind of our sweet spot, is eventually cybersecurity and compliance becomes a huge call center for these organizations. They're not trying to comply with one regulation. They're probably trying to comply with multiple. SOC 2, ISO 27001, there's regulations coming out of the EU GDPR. They're building teams. And now the question, if I'm the CEO, is like, man, we're spending a fortune on cybersecurity and compliance. Is there a way to do this better? Because kind of maybe your gut says, I'm not doing this the way I can. And then that's when we're looking for those efficiencies. How can you have a world-class cybersecurity program that meets all of your regulatory and compliance requirements, inspires trust in all your clients, and do that very, very efficiently? And that's the kind of conversation I'm having. So it's really an evaluation of the business model. It's like how important is cybersecurity for my business based on the types of services I provide?
Something that I see in the news all the time, especially being in Atlanta, I think of the Colonial Pipeline
Yep.
hack a few years ago, and ransom. I think of hospital ransom. I think in Atlanta, we're seeing more hospitals and city of blah, blah, blah
Yep.
is being held at ransom. How do I prevent that? Or if it happens to me, what do I do?
Yep. So even today, as of this recording, there was a AT&T outage. There was a cell phone outage,
Yes.
right? And it has, as of this recording, we don't know why that is, but there's already speculation that there was a nation state, something like China or Russia, that perhaps had something to do with that. We may never know. But and to your point, you're hearing about ransomware on Colonial Pipeline, the hospitals, so on and so forth. So number one is everybody is a target to a certain extent. If someone knows your logo, if you have critical infrastructure, if you're housing healthcare data, something like that, you especially need to be paying very close attention. And if you're a CEO of one of those types of companies, I'm sure that you already know that. But what people often don't know is no matter what kind of company you are, you're probably still a target, because it's not that you're being targeted, it's that most of what we're seeing out there is just opportunistic. These bad guys, they're just looking for low-hanging fruit. They're probably trying thousands and thousands of different companies and hoping something works. So just there's actually a few members of our Vistage community, since I've been doing these talks, that a few weeks after giving the talk, I'll get a call and they'll say, hey, I have this thing going on. And usually what that thing is they're having an email issue. So, they're all of their contacts just got a fraudulent email. They can't get access to their email, and someone's sending out using their email account to send something like ransomware, or they're changing bank account numbers or something like that. What we call that is business email compromise. That's by far and away for most small and medium-sized businesses the most common issue. It's where a bad guy somehow got access to your email, locked you out of it, or maybe even didn't lock you out of it, but is using your email to do bad things. And the question is, how can we prevent that? The good news is, while that's so prolific, the way to solve that's very easy. It's using username and passwords, complex passwords. We talked a lot about multi-factor authentication. So if people have those authenticator apps, or they're receiving text messages when you log in, that pretty much eliminates that problem, or for the most part eliminates that problem. So if you're listening to this, number one piece of advice I give all of our Vistage groups is like, hey, if you're not using multi-factor authentication as part of your security hygiene across all of your accounts, do that today, because almost all of the calls I get from friends and family are because they weren't using multi-factor authentication. Their password got compromised. Bad guy broke in, started using that email for bad purposes, and it's really embarrassing, time consuming, cost them money. So like that's the one thing that everyone, no matter what size your business, should be doing.
Yeah, I think it's one thing that resonates with me is the guy from the company that I run that does IT security, instituted that authenticator, and is very diligent about having us change passwords. And half my brain is, God, what a pain in the
Yeah.
behind to do it. But the other half of me is, thank goodness, because we haven't been compromised yet that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
just one. It's like the chicken and the egg problem with cybersecurity. It's like, how do you, as a CEO and a business owner, there's so many ways that you could spend your money and your resources and your energy. Like, you want to grow your business, you want to build your product. There's fires to put out. There's always urgent matters. So it's so easy to just neglect the hygiene piece of things. And security is one of those hygiene things. You got to dedicate effort to logging in. You have to pay an outsourced provider to help you with IT. And you don't really get any benefit from that. The benefit is nothing bad happens. So you can't celebrate that as a win. It's not adding to your bottom line. It's not revenue coming in the door. It's not a new product. It's not an office that you can sit in. But you have to have the discipline to invest in that, because the consequences are very real. Because if you don't do those things, all of your clients, because you're a law firm, get a fraudulent email. You have your bank account number changed in your invoicing document. Your biggest customer gets a scam email from you and now doesn't trust you anymore. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, man, I really should have spent just that little bit of money and a little bit of energy on solving those problems. So unfortunately, where we're at, and this is definitely improving, is people don't take cybersecurity seriously until after something happens. Then they kind of learn their lesson and do some things. But I think I think one of the very positive movements I'm seeing, even at Vistage groups across big businesses, small businesses, is just that awareness. And people are like, all right, I need to get my checkup. I need to do these things. I know they're hard, but they really matter to my business. I couldn't say that 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it would have fallen on deaf ears. People wouldn't want me to show up at a Vistage meeting and talk. Cybersecurity wouldn't seem relevant to CEOs. And just the fact that I'm getting booked, people want me to come talk to their groups. They're interested, they're engaged, they're aware of the problems. For someone who's been in this industry so long, that's a huge change.
yeah.
And that's a positive change, because what we used to say in the cybersecurity industry a long time ago was, we need executive buy-in, we need executive engagement. They don't understand how big this problem is. Slowly, we're not saying that anymore. CEOs are coming to us wanting to know about the problem, what they should be doing. And just that little change in culture, I think, is a huge change for me.
In the presentation to our group, you mentioned a trend or a happening that actually happened to us. And that is, somebody pretended to be the owner of the company.
Yep.
And texted one of our employees. In fact, this has happened maybe 3 or 4 times, saying, hey, I'm traveling, I need some gift cards, I want to use these gift cards. And they really made it sound like it's legitimately coming from the owner. They legitimately were in a scenario where they needed these gift cards purchased, and it was almost luck on a couple of occasions that we were able to catch it and say, whoa, that's not real, don't do that. And but you brought a real life example to our group of something that's happened. Do you have any other examples of something that a company needs to keep their eye out for?
Yeah. So one of the things I like to bring to light is the bad guys in this situation are very organized. They're corporations. They have policies and procedures. They have playbooks. They show up to their office every day. They have an office building often. They have payroll. They have performance reviews. They are expert scam artists, and they're doing this in big volume, and they're innovative. So, everyone has probably received that fake text message, buy me some gift cards. So people are wising up to that kind of thing. So it's this cat and mouse game. So the bad guys are getting better at coming up with scams. So a couple examples is we're seeing AI take off. And so used to, when you got an email from a fraudster, you could read the email and you'd be like, okay, this is bad English. This just doesn't check out. All my bells and alarms are going off. I'm not going to click on this. But simply because of something like ChatGPT, It can read like a great email. It can have relevant details to you because they can scrape information about you off of LinkedIn or off of the web, combine that with ChatGPT, create an automation, and send out thousands of very good emails. Then on top of that, we have AI that can produce pictures, can produce video, can produce voice even. So there's a lot of concern and some evidence of this in the marketplace that it's going beyond just emails. It's entering Zoom calls. We showed that example in the Vistage meeting of, it looks like Christian Hyatt's talking to you on Zoom, but it's actually AI making it look like me. So we're seeing some of those possibilities come to fruition. We're also seeing examples of voice. It only takes a few seconds of voice data to pretty accurately replicate someone's voice. So now you think it's your boss calling you, sounds just like them, but is actually a fraudster using AI or some technology to mask the voice. So what is the number one thing people can do? It's vigilance. Just be very skeptical. And that's a sad place to be because we want to be trustworthy. We want to be nice. We want to be helpful. But if you get an email, you have to be skeptical. If you get a phone call, you have to be skeptical. So what I say is just if it involves money, if money is changing hands, if access is changing hands, if passwords are changing hands, any critical data, check twice. If you get an email, you pick up the phone and call. If someone calls you, hang up, re-verify, or have some other way you can verify that information. And that's just where we are. Big businesses and banks are thinking about multiple ways to verify identity. The government's doing the same thing, and us as individuals have to do that. It's just where we are, and we all have to kind of make that okay. It's going to feel awkward, but it's just the reality of the situation.
You in the meeting talked about what happened if you were attacked and you were approached with ransomware requests for money.
Yeah.
And the response was actually different than I thought it would be. Can you kind of walk us through what happens if you run into a ransomware scenario?
Yep. So for those not familiar, ransomware is the phenomena where the bad guy gets into your IT systems and encrypts all of the data. And once that's encrypted, you try to access it and you can't, but then a message will pop up on your computer and say, hey, if you pay us Bitcoin, then we'll unlock all of your data and you can get access back to that. And that's probably one of the most first or second most common criminal activity that most people that I talk to face. So the question is, what do you do? And most people are like, I'll do nothing. I don't, I don't negotiate, or I'll call the cops, or they just don't know what to do. And what people are often surprised to find out, if you've ever been through this event, is that their customer service is excellent. The bad guy's customer service. So when you actually get the pop-up, they'll tell you how to respond to them. They'll give you instructions. There's often a help desk that you can call into. And the folks on the other end of this are professional negotiators. They have a whole business model where they will negotiate with you. They will help you unlock your data. They will probably truly will unlock it once you pay for various reasons. So the question is, if that happens to you, what do you do? Well, number one is you probably have cyber insurance. So you need to check into that. If you have cyber insurance, your insurance company is probably going to mandate that you take certain steps and that you use their trusted advisors, whoever their preferred partners are. A lot of times the instinct is to call a guy like Christian, get them to help you out, but that can invalidate your insurance. So almost always you want to check to see if you have cyber insurance and you want to follow their instructions and they'll help you through that. The surprising part of that is often the solution is paying them, that you'll actually pay the ransom. And the ransom actors are pretty smart, and usually the way they price what they want you to pay is your insurance limit. So let's say you have $100 or $1 million insurance limit for cyber insurance. They would often ask for that $1 million, and you would just pay that. They would unencrypt your data, and you would move forward with your day. That's not a great scenario, but that often happens, and that's often how they're thinking about pricing that. The other scenario is hopefully you have backups. Like you don't have to negotiate with them. You can recover your own systems and then go about your way and resolve the issue. But the bottom line is, and if you're a CEO, your first call is, if you don't have a security person on staff, talk to IT, and you're probably going to have to work through your insurance agent to figure out what steps they want you to take, because ultimately they're probably the ones paying the premium to the ransomware actor.
Yeah, when you told me this or told our group this, it was a slightly different twist than I thought you were going to come at it, and that's why you're the expert. So,
Yeah.
you know, Christian, we could probably go on and on about this, but I think at this point, you've really demonstrated the value of what you and the company has to offer. If somebody wanted to reach out to you to learn more and go into detail about their organization or have you speak to their group, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, two resources I'll throw out to people is if you just like to be educated about cybersecurity, you can go to YouTube and just look up Risk 360. We put out videos all the time, and it's just a great free education resource if anyone wants that. And if you actually do need help or you want to ask a question, go to risk360.com. There's a contact button in the top right of that, and it'll be coming straight to our team, and we'll help you out.
Awesome. Christian, thank you again for spending time with us today. I think what you're doing is great. And it was even good for me to hear it all again, because there was so much great stuff in your presentation. So
Thanks,
thank you
Muscat.
so much.
Thank you.
All right, all the best.